You're welcome back. This face-to-face on City TV. My guest is the Minister for Information, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. So your party seeks to break the 8. You have a new driver in the seat, which driver says he was just a mate. Now, people are saying that it's dishonesty if he tries to separate himself from his driver. They've used so many scenarios about trotro drivers and how their mates do all the shenanigans. I'm sure you've seen that. Help us explain the difference, if there is any. Or you are saying that the difference people are creating is mischief?
So if people say it is insincere for him to describe himself as the one who was not the driver, then those people are saying that President Mahama is insincere as well. Because President Mahama described himself as a spare driver after the passing of President Mills. Why? Because he was making the point, that constitutional point, that under Article 58 of the Constitution, executive power rests in the bosom of the president. We all serve at the pleasure of the president.
Except the vice president.
The vice president serves at the pleasure of the president. The vice president is selected. The presidential candidate is the sole person whose image and name is on the ballot paper. He is elected, and he is the one who then assigns responsibilities in the government.
But I don't like it when you
choose. If I may answer your question, he can choose to assign specific responsibilities to ministers, to the vice president, or to anybody. And we all work in pursuance of his or her vision. In fact, at the event at the UPSA, I tried to remind the audience of the various vision statements that had been made by various leaders of our party in times past, from J.A. Kufuor's golden age of business, to Nana Addo's free SHS, to Albert Edubuahin's return to democratic rule with strong institutions, to Victor Usu and all of those. And the point is this: whenever somebody becomes the leader of the party, on the platform of the leaders, of the party's philosophy, he will couch a vision that is relevant to the times in which he is. And he will lead us to the election based on that vision. The fact that a new leader articulates a vision that in part may deviate from the vision statement of the outgoing leader does not mean anything wrong has happened. When President Mills was buried, the very next set of months, I was a journalist at Joy FM at the time. We were invited to the Accra International Conference Center for President Mahama to outline his vision statement. He had been vice president. Why did he have to come outline his vision statement? Why did he have to say that he was a spare driver and that now he was in the driving seat and therefore wanted to construct things according to his vision? Because that is a reality. So I think that argument, with the greatest of respect, is superfluous. What I think we should do is to focus on the vision.
Yes.
And ask ourselves whether this vision answers the questions ahead of us.
Because you said that you all serve at the pleasure of the president.
Yes.
I'm just not sure if the vice president serves at the pleasure of the...
He does.
Before, no, hold on. Before election, yes, because the president can choose a running mate.
Yes.
But once you are elected and sworn in, I'm not sure presidents can fire their vice president midstream.
He can fire you. What is the role of the vice president according to the Constitution? Yes. So if the president, for example, doesn't want you to even chair a cabinet meeting in his stead, cabinet will not be scheduled in his absence.
Okay.
Cabinet will be scheduled when the president is available. Today, our vice president is chairman of the economic management team. And we have said this unchallenged. The economic management team, even forget about the constitutionality, it's a subcommittee to cabinet. If you read, I think, Article, if I'm correct, 56, cabinet is only an advisory body to the president. That's why when we come to parliament, we say that this instrument came by executive approval or came with cabinet approval. So cabinet, profers advice to the president. Advice is not something that you are bound by. And the fact that you listen to advice from various people and say, I hear all of you, but this is the path I want to take, does not mean you have done something wrong. In fact, if you listen to the vice president, he said that he's very proud of all the advice that the AMT has preferred to the administration of President Akufo-Addo. And now what he's saying is that if you make me president in January 2025, by the grace of God, I am going to pursue this particular vision. Some parts of that vision are in consonance with the Akufo-Addo administration's work and will be a continuation. And some parts will be different for about 2 or 3 reasons. Number one, the circumstances of January 2025 will be different from the circumstances of January 2017 or January 2021. And you would understand, therefore, that some of the things will be different. Number two, the Vice President, having sat where he has sat for the last 7 years, has learned a lot. Not everything has gone right in the Akufo-Addo administration, and we are not shy to admit it. Not everything has gone right.
You haven't admitted that. That's always been a difficulty. No,
we have said, I have even right here said it, and we have said it over and over again. The Vice President at Kaswa in 2022 spoke about it. Here's what we're saying. He has had the opportunity to learn a lot of things, to see a lot of things firsthand. And with his particular expertise and his particular disposition to observe and to learn, the things that need to be improved upon, he will improve it. So, for example, he says that you can trust that he will protect and improve free senior high school, the free senior high school program. Why? Because, why do you need to improve it? Because you've had the opportunity to sit and observe, see the gaps in it, see the challenges in it, see the mistakes in it, and you can build upon that. Other candidates, you may not have the confidence that they will even protect it, let alone improve it. So today you will find that he makes the point that circumstances will be different, and so some parts of his vision will be different. Having learned, he will be able to be in a position to improve some of those things. And then obviously, he also has a particular direction that he wants to take Ghana. A cash-light economy, a tent for the many and not the few.
Why didn't he list out to us things he disagreed with? Because, believe it or not, he's going to be a man of his own now. He was serving under somebody, but now the party has given him a mandate. He should say that holding the elephant's flag now, these are the things I thought were a mess or going to create a mess for our government. And these are the things that will let us crash. I am not going to stand for them. I did not stand for them at the time, and I'm going to oppose them now. So why didn't he list out those things so we know?
So I'll give you two parts to my answer. Number one, at times when he found it necessary, he openly spoke about his personal position on some matters. Take e-levy, for example. He said it openly, that I don't believe in taxing e-levy. I don't believe in taxing e-levy for two reasons. You affect growth in the digital payment space, and you will tax the poor. When it mattered at the table, he expressed it. But you don't expect the Vice President to come and hold a press conference outside that government has passed e-levy, and this is what I said at a cabinet meeting. He's under the oath of secrecy. Even I, as information minister, wouldn't do that. He's under oath of secrecy. He will contribute to the discussions, and in the end, the Akufo-Addo administration will take a decision where it wants to go. Secondly, it will be very immature for any political leader when especially you can tell clearly that you have an opportunity to assume the reins of power and do things in a particular way, to say that the route you want to take is to come and do a press conference that I disagree with this. It's not smart, it's not mature. Rather, focus on the prize. Keep your eye on the ball. Assume the reins of power and use that power to correct the things that you believe must be corrected.
A lot of people who have criticized this position say that you are in the kitchen, it is hot, and you still remain in there. In fact, I've listened to an analogy this morning on one of the radio stations where they say you're traveling to Japan with your boss, who is a driver, and you see that whatever is happening in the car is not good. You keep silent until you get to Atimpoku, then you say to the drivers, listen, the driver is getting down. I'm going to take you back to Accra. Then we start the journey all over again.
He didn't.
That's how people. That's how people are seeing it.
False analogy. Why would we be going back?
That's how people are seeing it. That
he
could have jumped ship.
No, he couldn't have. What he needed to do was to make his thoughts known, and then assume the reins of power and use it to correct the outstanding things that he believes need to be improved upon. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's what every smart vice president does. That's what every smart appointee in an administration does. But
e-levy is the only thing.
The thing for me is this: what is he saying about jobs?
I know. You're trying to reshape the conversation.
I'm not.
Let's fix this before you go to.
I'm saying the man has put out about 70 policy items grouped into 20 thematic areas.
Yes.
I'm saying we can have a long debate about why didn't he do this, why didn't he
do that.
We can also have some time to look at how his vision responds to specific things.
No problem.
And ask ourselves whether these specific things answer the questions of the millions of our brothers and sisters who are out there, who are looking for answers to questions on their minds.
Thank you for trying to remoderate the conversation.
No,
we'll get
I'm
there.
not.
This is a point, though. E-levy is the only thing he has publicly spoken against?
Because he was asked a question in the radio studio about it.
Does it mean that he agrees with everything else that Akufo-Addo has done?
You don't agree with everything that's happened at City, but you work at City.
Okay.
And it will not be smart of you to be holding press conferences on a daily basis, telling us what you disagree on with Bernard Shaw and with Samense's leadership style and everything. Tomorrow, if you are made chief executive of City, I can bet my bottom dollar, knowing Sanda, you will do some things differently. And there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. Let's focus on what you want to do differently. Does it work? Does it help? And let's help you to do it.
You have been quoted as saying that he was part of the works for e-levy.
No, I've not been quoted as saying that.
I have seen publications.
No, you haven't seen publications.
I have
what
seen
you
so
have
many
seen
publications.
is a headline.
Okay.
That's
a publication.
No, but those are not the words you spoke. I'm very particular about words. Okay. A headline that claims that I said that the vice president was instrumental in drafting e-levy. Mm-hmm. I have never used those words. Somebody decided to write those words and claim I have. The words I spoke were that the vice president was instrumental in cabinet and EMT meetings in expressing his principled position on the matter. What is his principled position on the matter? That he doesn't support it, and that if you do it, you're going to affect growth, and then you are going to tax the poor. Now, if I say that the vice president was instrumental in cabinet and EMT meetings in expressing his principled position on the matter, I think that it's either mischievous, or I don't want to use another word, for anybody to then try to reinterpret that to mean that I said the vice president drafted.
So you did speak at the
time. Journalism is one of the most important functions in the state. And I encourage all my colleagues that let's quote the words people use. Let's not try to rewrite their words just to achieve a headline.
So you said what you said at the time, but it was misquoted. That's what it was mispublished, or it was published wrongly.
And actually, if you go into the story, you'll find that they quoted me. But then on the headline, they put a different headline there, that I said he was instrumental in drafting e-levy.
So this was a cabinet thing, and you came out to breach your oath of secrecy and make the announcement that...
No, in fact, well, if you read the oath of secrecy, it says that I will hold these things secret unless they are necessary for the discharge of my work.
So you decided at the time...
I didn't decide.
Because there's a popular request for the whole government to support e-levy.
It was necessary for my work to provide information for the edification of the Ghanaian public.
Even if that information meant you're breaching what has been said.
It's not a breach of the oath of secrecy. The oath of secrecy says that you will hold it secret unless it is important to divulge it in pursuance of your work. And this was an instance in which
a number of you, members of parliament and ministers, were fighting to make sure e-levy goes through in this chamber, not far from where we are sitting. You are the same people now who are supporting Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who never supported e-levy like you're saying to us now. How do you... or what is your consistency now? You ministers and MPs who supported e-levy and even did a beautiful cake and cut it. Versus those who are now...
Again, that is falsehood. There was a party in which a guest did an e-levy cake and presented it to, I think, 2 members of parliament who were there. A photo was taken, it was sent viral, and now you've seen people try to claim that the government held an e-levy party and cut a cake. That's false. Secondly, I've now seen photos of the wife of the vice president at a program where then people do a Photoshop of her photo and then put the e-levy cake there to try to create the impression that that's falsehood. But the substantive question, let me answer
about what you did in parliament versus what he said.
In both instances, the leaders explained the basis on which they needed to do what they are doing. For example, if you look at the Akufo-Addo administration's presentation of its fiscal program, I think for the year 2021, if I'm correct, 2021 or 2022, it rolled out clearly an expansionary fiscal program and needed to fund it, and made the point that in funding that expansionary fiscal program and helping to clean up the fiscal gaps that had been occasioned because of the spending and the debt of COVID, it needed the electronic transactions levy, and explained why it thought that was the way to go. Dr. Bawumia, the new leader of the MPP, says that in 2025, I'll be rolling out a different fiscal program. I'm going to start by cutting expenses. I'm cutting down the size of government to not more than 50 ministers. Immediately, that's about 45 V8s and auxiliary staff that are gone. That's a savings on the public purse. He says, I'm going to ensure that a lot of the capital expenditure that central government carries on, I'm going to waive it away. And so I'm going to rather work with the private sector to do a lot of the capital expenditure, roads, etc.
Then all of a sudden, people had a change of mind.
I'm coming. Once he says that, you begin to see expenses moving off the expenditure table. He says, number 3, the goods and services budget that has a part for, purchasing things like printers, etc., etc. I'm going to do what a lot of the private sector organizations do, which is leasing of these assets and the responsibility of servicing and retooling is now on the lessor. The moment he outlines that, and the manifesto will show you the numbers, you see the cut in expenditure. And he's saying that because of this cut, if I am designing the fiscal program of 2025 as the president in whose name and on whose behalf the budget and the fiscal program is put together, I will not need these expenses, therefore I don't need these revenues. That's perfectly understandable. And so when you find members of parliament say, I subscribe to this fiscal program for 2025, somebody may choose to mock it by saying, the same people who were happy with E-levy, now they are happy that it's gone. But I think that we should edify the conversation by explaining the context within which the two issues have been raised. Let me see if what you said
is understandable, whether I can summarize it. You're saying that when E-levy was brought, the boss of the government at the time, what he said to you made sense. Now the new boss of your party makes another statement which makes sense to you, so makes you depart from the earlier position. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying to you that when City FM was set up at first and there was a conversation about City TV, the conversation was that, no, we don't need to go on a TV path. When times changed and Samens decided that I need to go on a TV path and made an argument that this is why I need to bring on TV and do the convergence, all of you are supporting it.
What are you saying?
The two are the same.
No, they're not the same.
They are the same. I'm saying that
when someone said we should do radio,
I'm saying I'm not saying when someone said you should do radio.
No,
I said when the leadership said that let's do TV at the time. Yes. There was an objection to it.
Yeah, no.
Oh, there was. Please.
The staff did
I am an insider like yourself. I am an insider like yourself.
Listen, stop bringing
if you want us to go back to if you want us to go there. But the point I'm making is this. When Ken Oforiatta putting together the fiscal program of 2021 said, I'm doing these expenses, I'm cleaning up these debts from COVID, and therefore I need these revenues. He made sense, and Parliament supported him. When Bawumia signals that in 2025, I don't need these expenses, so I don't need these revenues, it makes sense. You can ridicule it as much as you want, but it makes sense.
But do you not think with hindsight, it was a waste of time going to bring the E-levy, considering that it hasn't rigged in as much as you were hoping for?
The lessons have been learned, and that's why. The lessons have been learned.
It has become an unpopular tax on you.
But that is why the lessons have been learned, and the new leader of the party has given the policy.
So those of you in Parliament, will you not come and apologize?
We are happy to support him on this new path.
But you won't apologize for the...
I think I've been clear. The lessons have been learned, and we're happy to support him.
Moving forward, he says 1/10 for all. I'm sure he wanted to say one umbrella for all, but that would sound different. They say 1/10 for all. What does that mean by 1/10 for all?
Okay, so first of all, we make the point that not all persons are economically inclusive or included in productive activity in the Ghanaian economy. So many people looking for jobs who can find jobs, so many people who are looking for the arm of government to be stretched to the communities in which they are living to get some basic services which they are not getting. It is important for the state to stretch or be stretched, a tent big enough for all to participate under, for all to find space to operate economically. People can't get jobs because of poverty at home and couldn't get access to a particular education or space in a particular institution. If the school can take only 1,000 people, you may be qualified, but you are not getting admission in there. What he's saying is that he's introducing a set of bold solutions that will stretch the tent of the state to accommodate as many of our people to be involved in productive activity as possible.
In executing that, you need revenue, and widening the tax net is something I've heard since I started listening to budgets.
Yes.
He's saying the same thing. He's going to widen the tax net.
Yes.
How is he going to widen the tax net?
That, for example, is a classic example. He says that when it comes to income tax, this stratification is leading to a higher level of tax evasion by people. And what he wants to do is to bring a simplified tax model that has a certain specific percentage for incomes. And even if you look at VAT, now there's a view that people should actually move to a sales tax model. I didn't say sales tax, but a sales tax model for VAT, so that you don't do this input and output thing. You have a flat rate that works. He's talking about changing the tax framework of this country to a manner that makes it simple and easy for more people to participate. He's also talking about what he has led to do, which, and I'm not shy to say it, is not being fully implemented. For example, Dr. Bawumia is the one who said that if you still sit at GRA and issue tax identification numbers, which are less than national ID numbers, you are duplicating. Merge the two databases. Automatically, you will get the tax database growing exponentially, and you have potentially a larger number of potential taxpayers. What is now left with is that the Ghana Revenue Authority has to use the new database fully and go after everybody who is in that widened net. I can say to you today that that is not being fully done. And so he says that if you give me the opportunity, these are the things I'm going to make as priorities and ensure that they are done.
Talk to me about his private sector campaign. It appears that he says roads will be built by private sector. I don't understand that. Explain to me.
Okay, so you can use private sector partnership to give roads on concessions to be built and tolled by the private sector. When you travel to the US, when you go to the US, you know there are easy pass roads, etc., where the private sector is given incentives, insurance funds, etc., are given incentives to come in and to construct some of these roads and to toll them. And his point is that he's going to bring in the private sector to do a lot more of what government is struggling to do in a manner that gives the private sector incentives so that they use their capital to do it. The people benefit. Government doesn't constrain itself with resources that it doesn't have. It's been tried in other places. It's worked. And he wants to mainstream that here in Ghana.
So another youth and the road tolls should be back.
You can describe it how you want.
No, I'm not describing it how I want. No, tell me.
Is that not what it is? The vision that he puts out there is a bold, sensible vision.
No problem.
It must be supported.
No
instead
problem.
of
if a private sector person builds a road, government is not going to pay. The person has to recoup the money on the road.
Yes.
He has to impose a toll.
Yes.
So it's simple. There's going to be road tolls coming back.
I have said over and over again that you can describe it how you want. But I've explained the vision.
This is Face to Face on City TV. My guest, Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. In fact, when we come back, my next question is, if Dr. Bawumia wins and reduces the size of government to 15 ministers, would he get to be inside some? How is he going to deal with that? And a few other things that he has talked about. When we come back, please stay. You're welcome back. My guest, Minister for Information, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. Another promise Dr. Bawumia made, job creation the private sector way. This is a government that came in and brought us NAPCO, where you said you're going to employ people, and after 3 years you gave up on that whole thing and
right
ran away.
You're
realizing now that you have to give it to private.
As my colleague journalist, put out the full facts. NAPCO right from the beginning was said to be a temporary program.
You extended it.
So don't make the point that after a while...
I didn't ask you to
give up. It was clear from the beginning that NAPCO was going to be 3 years, and it wasn't going to be a permanent solution.
So let me be
what
serious
Dr. Bawumia has said,
the reason I said you gave up,
the data available from SNIT is that so far we've done a little over 2 million jobs, about 1.2 in the public services, and about 950,000 in the private sector. And he's rolling out a jobs program across sectors where he says that those programs will help to give a lot more young people permanent jobs. One of them being in the digital arena. I'm privy to work already that is being done that is going to train about 250,000 people for digital jobs in Ghana, across Africa and globally a year. And in 4 years, do about 1 million. He outlined it there in his policy address. The question is, does that make sense? Is it being done elsewhere? Does it work?
So it's going to be private sector led. And I'm saying that the issue of NAPCO, the payment of allowances to them was a problem. They've demonstrated a number of times. Have you realized now as a government that government employment is out of the picture completely, so you are not going to go on that agenda except for maybe institutions like YEA?
Government employment can never be out of the picture completely.
Okay.
Because there will be a public service that will run. But there will be a lot more room in the private sector. And that is why the new leader of the party is making the point that he's going to support the private sector approach significantly, so that the private sector is able to create and retain a lot more jobs than it has done in times past. If you look at the numbers that we are even talking about, because they are very limited, reliable numbers on jobs in Ghana, SNIT data is what we are relying on. That 1.2 plus 950, 1.2 is public sector, 950 is private sector. And what he's saying is that when he has the opportunity, he's going to invest a lot more in the private sector route, so that the numbers that will be churned out eventually will be heavier on the private sector
than on the public sector. Why don't you then support people working for 24 hours so that more people, 3 times what we already have employed would be employed?
Some of the initiatives that have been rolled out on Dr. Bawumia's watch, when it comes to the specific brief of helping to modernize the Ghanaian economy, they're ensuring that people work for 24 hours. For example, the Ghana.gov platform that has been completed and has north of, I think, 80% of public institutions on it, has people working on it for 24 hours. There are several examples of things that he spoke about during his vision statement that has people working on it for 24 hours.
Let's talk about the leasing of vehicles. Explain that concept to me. What's the plan?
If you come to, let's say, Parliament, take Parliament. Parliament literally every 4 years buys about 275 V8s for members of Parliament.
On loan?
On loan.
They pay for it?
So I as member of Parliament, I take a loan, which is subsidized by the state, to buy my official vehicle. If you had a different model that says that we don't need to do that, let Parliament just lease a vehicle for you. You won't pay $100,000 in the 4-year period. And it will end up being cheaper on the state than for every 4 years spending $100,000 on a V8 for a member of Parliament, so that he can travel to, for example, Turbodom, where I went yesterday to perform an official function.
I don't think Parliament
that is a example. No, it is. It is part of government. No,
because you pay for your vehicle.
No. I'm saying it's a graphic example. It is the same thing. It's a graphic example. Okay. So take the ministries, departments, and agencies.
Yes, use that one for
What
me.
is the carpool there? Mm-hmm. How many vehicles are we buying? And what percentage of the capital expenditure budget is going towards purchase of vehicles for the ministries, departments, and agencies? And what he's saying is that if you flip the model and you said, lease it. If, for example, the minister is only traveling 2 days in the week to go and perform an assignment in Kpando, he may only need to lease that vehicle for 2 days in a week to go and perform that function. Then we don't spend taxpayers' money buying this vehicle that is sitting here.
Where he has to go visit, his constituents. He has to go and...
Well, as minister, he's not expected to go visit his constituents. As minister...
If he's a minister, he has to go to other public functions. So what happens? So
he will then use a smaller vehicle leased.
But you already have that plan.
No, so he's saying that this concept of buying vehicles, shelve it, and rather have a smaller system where you lease as and when you require. If you're traveling, you lease a V8. If you are in Accra working, you lease a smaller vehicle.
I thought you already had that plan where you have a carpool where ministers are supposed to use them when they are going out. It's a failure to
even for that carpool, you have to buy the car. What he's saying is that the cash outlay is money that can be used for something else.
Okay.
So don't buy that car. Lease it when you need it. These are part of the innovative, bold solutions that he's proposing.
Two more things before we go. National service, not mandatory.
Yes.
The view has been held, and I've spoken to a former executive director of NSS, and he says to me that NSS is a building platform for you. It's a place where you go to build your CVs. One of the reasons you introduced NAPCO, you said to us that when you do NAPCO for 3 years, you go to the employer and say, oh, look, I've worked for 3 years. That's what NSS gives you.
And NSS will stay. He's not said he's going to abolish NSS. He's saying that if you get a job and you are being denied that job because you haven't done the mandatory national service, he's going to take that clause out. If you get a job and the employer is willing to take that job, the employer is not compelled to say that because you haven't done national service, he shouldn't give you that job. The employer should have the liberty to take you for that job. That does not mean that national service has been cancelled. It doesn't mean that this training, opportunity, and learning and growing of culture is gone. It's still there. You can go do it. Employers who want to do it can still do it. But you will not be denied a job because you haven't done national service. That's the wisdom in his policy.
We complain about agri sector not doing well. You don't think that another better alternative would have been take the NSS people, send them to NSS farms, let them produce maize and sorghum.
How many of them have been sent to the farms in recent
so many,
years?
We've had NSS farms.
I'm saying, how many of them have been put to the farms? What has been the outcome? What has been the impact on it? And is this policy stopping them?
So
it's not stopping them.
Better. Don't
give
an opportunity for
people
to
not stopping
opt
them.
out.
It is not stopping them. And he cited a clear example. He said, people get jobs and they are denied the jobs because they've not done mandatory national service. All he's doing is taking the mandatory nature away.
Finally, 50 ministers.
Yeah.
Is that an admission that the Akufo-Addo's size of ministers has been a failure?
It's an admission that in 2025 you will not need the size of government.
It's an admission that it's been a failure.
It is an admission that for the things he wants to do in 2025, you can do it with 50 ministers.
Just 50 ministers.
Yes.
Do you look to be part of that?
Well, we serve at the pledge of the president. I don't think that all these efforts are cajoling a president to go one way or the other are helpful. I think that what we should do is to help him to construct a government of 50 ministers that will be efficient.
Which means I will not even ask you if you are going to also be campaigning for running mate, because it seems that vacancy has caused a lot of campaigning.
No, I think that we should give the candidates the room. We should support him, let him make his choices.
Is he frustrated by all these people?
I don't get a sense of frustration from him, but I don't think it's healthy. I think that he should be given room to continue doing things. He's just finished his policy announcement or his vision announcement. He's going to go to the 16 regions of the country, and then we are, as part of that, going to get into the manifesto preparation stage. That picks from his vision board and fleshing it out. So there are a series of activities. Let's go on. and not necessarily be distracted.
So the campaigns for running mates, he's not worried at all. He has already decided.
I don't get that impression from him that he's worried about it, but I think that we should give him room to do what he wants to do.
Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah.
Yes, sir. Sandra.
MP of Wasia Irebe.
Yes, sir.
Minister in the Akufo-Addo government.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, sir.
It's
always
been
a pleasure speaking to you.
Are you sure? I'm not
always
sure.
a pleasure speaking to you. I enjoy speaking to you very
Thank you. My name is Umaru Sandamado. This has been Face to Face on CDTV. We'll be back next week on CDTV. Stay with us.